Okay, my friends, here it is. The Saturday morning live stream at the Garden Like a Viking headquarters, Zone 5/6, Northern Indiana. Today is insanely warm. It is like 55 degrees Fahrenheit, and it feels like spring. It feels like everything should be growing, like you should hear the birds chirping and everything. So it's really crazy. This winter has been super mild. Um, just a couple of light dustings of snow, nothing of any importance. And so we'll see. We'll see what January holds. But check it out, guys. Look, the of my gingerbread house, the construction adhesive, which is literal frosting, turned out to not be permanent. So it fell. The whole door and the frame and everything fell off. So yeah, it's amazing though that this thing has not decomposed in the slightest bit. You know, you always have to be leery of stuff that doesn't decompose, foodstuffs that doesn't decompose. You know, so when it just sits there and sits there and sits there and doesn't change at all, you always got to be leery. Even stuff like packaging, anything from a shelf, anything from the gas station, all that kind of stuff that just sits on a shelf. If you cook and if you cook like a Viking from the garden and you cook from scratch every day, you understand that food stuff does not last long at all. Food stuff will decompose rapidly. So within hours or a few days, stuff is wanting to turn back into soil. It's wanting to turn back into the life cycle. Things that are removed from that, things that can just sit almost indefinitely without decaying, are a little sus, to say the least. Okay? A little sus, to say the least. So we want our food to be able to decompose rapidly, yeah? Unless it's fermented or dehydrated, properly dehydrated. But we know, of course, I mean, nobody is buying a gingerbread house. No one's making a gingerbread house thinking that it is some kind of organic health food, that's for sure, right? Even the Clark Griswold of gingerbread houses, huh? So, guys, let me know what you got growing, what you are anticipating for this season. If you're watching this after the fact, let us know in the comments what your hopes and dreams are for the upcoming growing season, what you want to experiment with, what you want to grow. Let me know. Am I blowing this microphone out? You got to let me know, because we're always in pursuit of better sound. So, can you hear me? Should I put it closer to my voice? Or is this fine? Let me know. So, yes, kind of like these right here. These are elephant garlic. And for years, I wanted to love elephant garlic because one, it's so easy to grow. And two, it's so big and they're so easy to peel. So this is a tiny elephant garlic. But the cloves are so easy to peel, and a big, nice cloves is so easy to use, except the one downside is that it's disgusting, is that it doesn't taste like garlic. It tastes like a sad combination of an onion with a sort of leek, with a sort of, it's just, nobody has liked it, you know? And we eat garlic raw here, and so that's how I test the garlic. I like to eat it raw. Eat this stuff raw. It is terrible, almost like so bitter. It doesn't taste like any of the other garlics, because ultimately it's not a true garlic, of course. But man, for years I wanted to love this stuff, but I just can't. So I'm done. I'm done growing it, even for show. I don't have room anymore to be growing just to throw away. That's for sure. Yes, it all gets composted, but we don't have room for that kind of stuff anymore. Yeah. So Argle Bargle says, I'm growing elephant garlic, but I'm only going to sell it. Yes, many people like it, so I don't want to turn you off of elephant garlic, especially if you've got an elephant garlic selling business. Then by all means, grow on. But personally, as far as cuisine, as far as using it, it's just not really that. That's why I feel like the cooking is such an important aspect of the whole growing thing, because we could grow tons of elephant garlic. Look how big and beautiful this garlic is. It's so easy to grow, and it's like a novelty. But then you go to cook it, and it's terrible. It's just not good. Okay, so Let's see. Hello, Kim Williams says hello everyone from warm and sunny Tunisia. Yes, hello, my friend. Shieldama says I'm growing pea microgreens. Oh yeah, so are we. We're growing pea microgreens, which we just soaked the batch last night. Whoops, which we just soaked the batch last night, and it's going to go into the soil here as soon as we are done with this. Then I'm going to put these into the soil. I like to soak them for about 12 hours. I feel like it speeds germination. And with microgreens, the least amount of time, this is what I found, the least amount of time that they are growing, the better, because that means less amount of opportunities for failure, opportunities for pests to come in, opportunities for molds and fungi and stuff like that to form. So the shortest amount of time possible, that's what I like. So if there's something that can speed it up by a day, a full day or two, then I'm all about it. And that's what I found soaking them does. Okay, yes, thank you, Andre. So you said you felt like it was better when it was closer to my mouth. Now, well, when I'm speaking directly into it, see, I don't really know, but we got to experiment. I will turn up the gain next time that I talk. So here, okay. So this is what we'll try and do for now. Okay, so the yes, Shieldama says I never let mine go over 10 days. Yes, exactly. Me too, if I can help it. Except that the basement is 50, 55, 56 degrees. So that's pretty cool for the microgreens. And they kind of just sit there for a long time. You know, they don't really want to grow all that vigorously. When I put them on a heat mat, though, boy, they grow real fast. But the molds will also proliferate. Yeah. Sam Potzik says, no more clipping and clicking. Whatever you did worked. I totally switched to this Rode Wireless Go microphone, which is kind of a pain to use, and I don't trust it, but whatever. I think that the Yeti podcaster microphone that I was using, or the Yeti X, I have two different Yetis. They're condenser type microphones. I think that was doing I don't know. It was doing something. Even though you would think that this software, StreamYard, which is made for content creators specifically, you would think that they would have thought of that people would be using a microphone literally called the Yeti podcaster, or the Yeti live streamer. You would think that they would have thought of that, but you can't assume anything anymore. It's all just crazy and insane, and it takes forever to learn about anything. But we make it happen, yeah? Hello, Penny Simpson. Oh yeah, Queen RB says, local organic food truck wants to buy my red onions this coming season. Gonna try Tropea Rosa Tonda, 90 days as well as Rosa di Milano, 111, 120. 90 days, huh? Guys, them Rosa di Milano are incredible. I mean, they are really incredible. Now, I did have several of them turn soft already. A much higher percentage of them have turned soft than the Yellow of Parma. Rock hard. I've had one or two of them turn soft, but I'm going to attribute most of that with the Rosa de Milanos to the extreme drought that we had the past several years. I mean, but this past summer they went 10 weeks without a drop of rain. 12 weeks without a drop of rain, and when it did, it was just a little trickle. So nothing likes to grow in that condition, even though it's a testament to the robust hardiness of the growing methods that anything even survived at all. Yeah. So I did occasionally water them sometimes, but hand watering them like that is not adequate. It's not the same. That's why this year we're going to have these beds on drip systems. Drip irrigation is what you want. It's much better than dousing it with a huge influx of water from a watering wand, and then that's it. Because it doesn't have time to absorb it properly. Really, and I know this from extensive, we used to live on water tanks and water systems and drip lines in Northern California. So you really want the slow drip. like a real soft, gentle rain. That's like the best, you know, the soil can, when it's just drip, 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 the soil can absorb that, and it transfers it through capillary action. So the soil can absorb that and become really nice and uniformly moist. Okay. So you'll see this year with the drip lines, we're not messing around. We're going to have a phenomenal year. Of course, we always have phenomenal years, but this year I'm very confident that it will be the best year yet. And I think I'm going to actually um, record the weights of things that I harvest, even though weight is not necessarily the best, indicator, but I want to record in some way how much food I'm actually pulling out. Because now, guys, we've got the ultimate food producing system. I mean, it is the ultimate food producing system. It really is. We're going to be producing for at least the next 3 to 5 years with this setup, the super nice, high nutrient density, very nutrient dense, very full of life force. You can produce a lot of food this way. So I want to show this, how much you can actually produce. And we're in the city. Now, we have a big lot for being in the city. It is big for being right in the heart of the city right now. We're essentially downtown. We're just shy of downtown. But we're fortunate to have a really deep lot. So we turned the whole thing into food producing, the whole thing. Because the first few years when I moved here, or the first year, I felt like such a moron out there mowing my lawn. Just mowing the lawn, huge backyard, just mowing the lawn for what? And all this, because I came from traveling in Asia and in Southeast Asia and in India and Europe and Greece and all this, and where people don't have lawns. I mean, to have a lawn is kind of an absurd thing, really. It's kind of an American invention where you gotta do all this work and you gotta put these chemicals on it. And you gotta buy these big machines and everything to maintain grass for whatever reason that doesn't do anything for the natural ecosystem. Doesn't do anything, And most of these people are poisoning the system that sustains us just so that they can have a lawn that looks like carpet. Now, sorry, Big West. This is my opinion and experience. Some people get into lawns, and that's fine. Okay? But I felt like a moron out there just mowing a big lawn. So I was like, why don't I do like would make sense and turn the whole thing into food producing? So every square inch is producing food now, except for the tiny little front lawn. But the big back lawn, all of it's food. Yeah, all of it's food. Lita Knows says, armadillos ate most of my walking onions. I hope I have 4 left and maybe some babies knocked down entry fencing. So sad. That's a unique problem to have. Armadillos ate most of your walking onions. Now, they'll probably be fine. I'm very surprised, actually, that I guess, okay, so when I say no pests really bother the walking onions, I guess I didn't take into account armadillos because I don't have any experience with them. So, but I bet you'll still have plenty of them pop up. You will. Them things, guys, they got the Viking genetics in them. They are going to be very hardy. Meyer Lemon says, agreed, refining tomato varieties for sure. The only squash I'm growing next season is Costata Romanesco zucchini. Italian heirloom that's so nutty and flavorful. Nice, nice. Yes, I am growing only the white scallop squash. It's for summer squash. And yeah, well, tomato varieties next year, I'm going to be going back to the Romas. The Romas are just the best paste tomato, in my opinion. They really are. I mean, they make the most classic tasting sauces and all that, because I like to reduce. You know how I make my tomato sauce. I like to just blitz the whole thing in the blender and then reduce it by about half. Yeah. Now, some people have given me like their stewed type tomatoes, said, here, try these, to where they blanch the tomatoes, they peel them, or they'll core them, a lot of work, definitely. But they don't reduce them. So I've added them to my recipes, and everything tastes super watery, to me, because I'm accustomed to having a thick tomato sauce that has been reduced by at least half. So when you're accustomed to that, and then you add these tomatoes, there's chunks of tomatoes, which is great if that's what you're after and that's what you're used to. But for me, it watered down the recipes that I use them in, and it like tastes watery. So so you got to be real, those are things we'll talk about on the cooking channel this upcoming year when we make it. Those are things you want to be really aware of in your recipes. Yeah. If you're cooking something where it calls for that, that's a different thing. But like spaghetti based things or sweet and sour pot roast, which I like to make, waters it down big time. So Roma's is the only paste tomato that I'm really interested in. A close second is the Amish paste. The Amish paste tomato is wonderful, except that it is so prone to disease. It is just naturally a very fragile strain of tomatoes. Now, the Romas are naturally a very robust strain of tomato. They resist diseases for a long time, especially if you use that back guano bloom fertilizer recipe. If you spray it with that, that pretty much fortifies their immune system till they're not going to be getting diseases. So I'm going to grow the Romas, Cherokee purples, and the purple bumblebees, and that's all I need. Yeah. Yeah. JP Holmes, Jaipur says, please Hindi language shows. Yeah, I don't speak Hindi, my friend. If there's some other way to get it translated, we would. Been to Jaipur, yes. Let's see, is that the Pink City, right? The Pink, been to the Pink City in Jaipur. Also been to the, what fort is it? Where you go, we rode the Royal Enfield motorcycles up the castle, and we stood out there to the fort where they have a huge garden. I think that the fort was built in like the 12th century or maybe the 2nd century. It's an old fort. It was insane. Jaipur is a wonderful place, and been there several times on motorcycle expeditions. Yes, Look to Nature says, knowing your weights will be crucial once you have land and livestock. Yes, it definitely can be. Yes, for certain situations, for sure. But for the for this situation, but you're right. Yeah, but for this situation, which is just growing nutrient dense produce for ourselves to nourish ourselves over the winter and over the season, weight is not that important. It's not like it is when you're, commercially selling, where you're trying to push for weight. You know, that's one of the worst metrics, really, because it fosters the lowest quality of produce when weight is the only thing that matters. So, um, Teats Treat says, I'm just here waiting on the new batch of Viking newts. That's right, my friend. We're going to be having boatloads of them, long ships of them for sale here before too long, about another 6 weeks, give or take, because I had to get had to apply for the fertilizer license and all this yada, 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 and then got to formulate the website and all of that. I'm never selling. These walking onions this past year showed me never sell another thing without a proper website. Don't just be having people hitting up your PayPal constantly. That was a lot of work, So the website now will handle all of that. So you just go to the website. There will be that walking onions, maybe a couple of other things I've yet to say, and then the Viking nutrients. Yeah. So there will be plenty. You guys can count on it. I mean, I already got the nutrients. I got the mixer. It's all in the Viking cave, getting ready to be mixed. So you can pretty much count on it for your upcoming year if you want to. Yeah. So Argo Bargle says, I'm experimenting with Thomas Doyle plastic mulch method this year. Sandy soil, and I live in Quackgrass Central. I'm totally surrounded by it. So plastic mulch for now. Yeah, at the Viking North plot, we have a Thomas Doyle classic, 100% Thomas Doyle 40 by 50 plot. And we trenched the whole thing, buried the sides of the plastic, and then put the holes in the plastic. Now, we did it a little bit late last year, and we didn't do it right. So we ended up with, when I cut the grass and stuff, we ended up with a bunch of sharp things pointing upwards. And it just, we did it in like May, or I mean, way too late. The soil had no time. We literally basically planted into living grass. So a well-established grass. So this upcoming year will be much more of a proper Thomas Doyle, where everything's dead and it's just soil. So we'll see. I want to really experiment with that, because we just planted. We didn't water, we didn't weed, we didn't fertilize, nothing. You don't even water with a 10-week drought, nothing. Now, one issue that we did run into with the plastic mulch garden is that the tomatoes, we let the tomatoes sprawl. So we planted, we put the holes every 3 feet instead of every 12 inches like Thomas Doyle says. You take your plastic, lay it out, trench around it, bury it, and it's there for 10 years. That's it. And that's exactly what we did. But he says every 12 inches, you burn a hole, and 30 inches on the row. Okay. Then you plant whatever you want into there. Now, I was like, well, I don't want all those holes where weeds can grow up, which we had to do it that way for the first year because the grass was like well established and thriving. We literally mowed it down and planted like the next day. So one thing that we did though is we did every 3 feet, we did a hole, and we planted a tomato, and then we just let it sprawl. Now, the sprawl method works wonderful with landscaping fabric because the tomato can crawl out and put down roots roots can go down through landscaping fabric. I'm sure most of you are aware of that. They can't come up. Things don't come up through landscaping fabric. So, the tomato, when you plant in like a woven tarp or landscaping fabric, the tomato everywhere, when it's along the ground, it will put down roots and into the ground to anchor it there. And then it will produce leaves and fruit underneath on the ground. That's how it naturally is supposed to go. And it's distant cousins that exist in the wild. That's how they do it. They're actually sprawling vines. Now, what we ran into with the method that we did with those holes every 3 feet and 4 feet between rows was that the tomato plant would sprawl out, but then a heavy wind would come and it would blow it, and there was nothing for the roots to anchor to because it can't go down through the plastic. And so the wind would blow it, and all those leaves that were shading out the fruit would turn over, and the fruit would just get roasted by the sun. And so the plant wasn't able to do what it's supposed to do and shade out the fruit and shade out the plant wasn't able to do what it's supposed to do and shade out the fruit and shade out the ground beneath it. So every time a wind blew, the whole plant would just, and once the underside of the leaf is exposed to the ultraviolet, it just roasts it, and it just because that's not how it's supposed to do it in nature. It would not constantly be flipping over. One week be that way, and then a storm would come and blow it completely the other way. That's not how they like to thrive. So we ran into major issues with that. The fruit was getting roasted. The whole plants were getting roasted. Now, if we had done 12-inch holes every 30 inches, like Thomas Doyle recommended, then perhaps the tomato plant would sprawl and put down roots in those holes because it only had to go a foot. So it would immediately start putting down roots in those holes. I think that's what would happen. And in which case, the black plastic would not roast anything. Okay. Way too many people think that the black plastic is roasting things, but it's not necessarily that way. Remember, when you drive through the Central Valley of California, you will see miles and miles and miles of black plastic in the Central Valley, where it's blazing hot and things are growing perfectly fine on there. Yeah, so but the plant can't be constantly getting, flopped from side to side. So we had big issues with that. Yeah. Um, so yeah, let's see here. The Cooking with Shelly, Pampered Chef. Cooking with Shelly, Pampered Chef. Yes, the YouTube puts the commercials on them. Definitely, they pretty much stay that way if you monetize the video. Because if you don't monetize the video, YouTube puts commercials there anyways. But then you don't get any money for them. Okay. So, oh yeah, Queen RB. We'll be investing in a Milwaukee Weed Whacker. That is a great tool. I have one. Milwaukee Weed Whacker, very powerful, long lasting. If you get the high amp hour video or battery, very beneficial. Yeah, easy to use. You pretty much don't need a gas powered one again, unless you're doing big areas of things. So, Maurice Wagner says, big thanks from Germany for your videos. You teach me a lot. Yes, you're welcome, my friend. Yes, you are very welcome. I've been to Germany, actually. I landed in Frankfurt and traveled around for a while, spent some time in Berlin. At the Christmas market in Berlin was amazing, drinking Glühwein back in the day. A lot of good memories in Germany and with German-speaking people. Yeah, when I lived in Thailand, the sort of group of expats that I lived with was German. They were all German, so I got to. I felt like I was in Germany in many ways. No. Jersey Twister says, have you tried the Jersey Devil tomato for paste tomatoes? I have not. No. Adam says, you should try raspberry Liana or opalka for sauce. I grew the raspberry Liana for several years. It's a Russian variety. It's a pink tomato. So it doesn't get that dark red. Okay. So you have to be prepared for that. And remember, guys, the eyes like to eat too. Okay. So these are things I'll talk about on the Cook Like a Viking channel, which is not here yet. So it's not here yet. But when I had the raspberry Lianas, the sauce was like pink, and so when you would go to make something, having a bright pink sauce, it didn't do it for me, and the flavor I was not that impressed with. But I grew them because they grow so prolifically and so easily, and they're disease resistant. I mean, and they're pest resistant. Basically, the fruit was like perfect looking, nice and spherical, but like a light pink. But I got away from them. I don't grow them at all anymore. And I also grew things like Thorburns terracotta, yeah, from the 1800s. Now this is like a pumpkin orange tomato, and again, you make a sauce from that, and it's like the pumpkin orange kind of. It just doesn't. You're eating a sauce. It's just not what that registers. It doesn't. You want that dark, rich red sauce from the tomatoes. Now I know many of you are going, no, I like the different colors and stuff, and that's perfectly fine, perfectly fine. But if I could have you over for dinner and we could do experiments, and I could explain to you what I'm talking about, you would see. Oh wow, okay. Not only that, but the classic paste tomatoes are classic for a reason. The Roma, the San Marzano, which I didn't get to experiment a lot with this year. We grew them at the Viking North plot, but this year was crazy. We didn't get many. Well, because of that, because they were blowing around and getting roasted by the sun. Next year, we're going to mitigate that. I think that I'm just going to get a few cattle panels. You know what cattle panels are. And I'm going to put them on cinder blocks. And or maybe even just boards or bricks or something, and lay the cattle panels over all of the tomatoes. Still let them sprawl like that, but they're going to grow up through the cattle panel and then fall onto the cattle panel. And then that way they're going to sprawl, but they're going to have something to to grab onto. What do you think? I think that's going to work. Um, I think that's going to work. But now we're going to experiment with another way of doing the tarp garden as well. But it's going to be not permanent. It's going to incorporate cover crops and sandbags for the weight system. So we're going to uncover it in the fall, plant a cover crop, and then in the springtime, till that cover crop in. We're going to green manure it, and then roll back out the plastic. The whole thing is trying to develop a system that is zero maintenance. You have to act like nobody lives there. That's the whole mentality. Just zero. You just plant it and harvest. That's it. So that is the goal for that. Okay, because think of how for a lot of people, they need that. Yeah. Okay, here Midwest Gatherer says, "Have you grown San Marzano? If so, why don't you like them as much as Roma? Less reducing in my experience." I didn't have enough experience with the San Marzano. I just tasted them one time, but this upcoming year we'll grow San Marzano and Romas for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. See, Argo Bargle says, "I agree. Amish paste is a wimpy tomato plant." Aaron Johnson says, "Yes, Amish paste were hit bad with something this year. They all split." Yeah. Ryan Kelly says, "Is it okay to keep ducks in the garden? LOL. Just adopted 2 new baby ducklings who like to wander around the garden. Have had them for a week. Not sure if they can cause any damage. So far, nothing." Now, you'll want to ask Look to Nature Homestead. He has direct experience with exactly what you're talking about. Now, my experience is indirect. I've never owned them in my own garden, but I do know that they're not anything as damaging as chickens, from what I've seen. That they don't scratch like chickens do. Chickens will just decimate your whole garden. But I've not experienced ducks doing that. Have you guys? Okay. Pepper Gardner says, "I bet the onion orders were a mess." They kind of were, except we made it happen. We made it happen. There was only one person that never received them, but we shipped them twice to that address. So um, everybody got them. That's what I can say. That we stood true to our word. Everybody got them. And so, but I'm not going to do it like that again. I'm not just going to, just PayPal or Venmo or Cash App or whatever you want. Just give me your address. So many people would send a payment with no address. Then I got to chase them down. And through the Venmo app, you can't respond to people. You can't have a conversation through these payment apps. So yeah. How am I sounding? Still good? You guys talking about Jurassic, huh? It's going to get Jurassic. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Lisa T says, "Hope cattle panel arches will hold up. They did great with medium-sized pumpkins and small spaghetti squash and purple hyacinth beans for added eye candy." Okay, Shawnee Grows. In the watermelon patch, you want to use a weed fabric. Now you want to use, now watermelon are the same as the tomatoes in the sense that they want to sprawl out and put down supporter roots. So if you just have a massive sheet of plastic, I don't think it's going to work like that. They're going to blow around, and so you need to, if you have landscaping fabric, though, woven landscaping fabric, I know this for a fact because we had major success 2 years ago. Last year we had 0 watermelons. Every single plant got eaten by something. It was crushing. So that cannot happen this year. That cannot happen. So we are going to do different methods this year, but the just having either a woven tarp or woven landscaping fabric will allow them to put down roots. Yeah. So that's what I would use. That's the best way. Otherwise, almost just forget about it. So let's see here. Iowa Viking says, my favorite tomato is the Amish paste. It is a good one. It's a good dual purpose, actually. It's supposed, I mean, it's paste, but it's actually, of all of the paste tomatoes, it is the most flavorful fresh eating tomato. Yeah. Um, Lisa says, past 2 years, our San Marzanos were thinner walled, less productive than my Romas. Less flavor. Ooh, okay, yes. Uh, Pilar says, my ducks and chickens eat my stuff. I keep them away. Ducks are great if you have slugs, though. Hmm. Yeah, Queen RB says, not growing any sauce tomatoes, realizing I don't like canned sauce. What? I grow Big Orange Kellogg's Breakfast or Dr. Witch's Yellow. Make fresh, make quick fresh sauce or from whole frozen. Yeah, I always want to give it the benefit of the doubt and think that I'm going to make a killer sauce with Cherokee purples, for example. And so I grew like three Cherokee purple plants this year in the home garden. Got tons I mean, several 5-gallon buckets of Cherokee purples. Started making sauce with them and stuff, and they never reduce to that point where they get that classic tomato sauce spaghetti pasta, Italian flavor. They just don't. They remain too sweet. The acidity is off, and they're just totally different. I made some jars of it, and I was like, it's just a whole different experience. I mean, it literally doesn't taste anything like Roma sauce. So they're great for fresh eating. They're my favorite of all for fresh eating, of course. Midwest Gatherer says Duck's Hutch is next to my friend's garden. They claim it's the best slug solution they have ever implemented. I'm getting some this spring and will update as I gain some experience. Be sure to let us update or be sure to let us know with the updates. In particular, I'm interested for future knowledge because when we get the land, we will of course have ducks and chickens. But I want to, because you hear a lot of that. If you've got slug issues, just get ducks. Just get ducks. I mean, so many people just get ducks and be done with it. Well, okay. Well, but there's so many questions in my mind. So if they're anything like chickens, then just get ducks and destroy all of your seedlings and your plants. So that doesn't really make sense to me. So I would need to know much more about that. So be sure to let us know because they're going to be trampling all over your stuff, right? I mean, the cat is bad enough. The cat is horrible for stuff in the garden. So, okay, Joe Slack says electric tomato strainer will make the best tomato sauce. Italian background here. We still make 30 bushels of San Marzano every summer, approximately 16 to 18 quarts of thick tomato sauce per bushel. Okay, so my question then is why spend the time straining them? What really big of a difference does it make? I have done it both ways. I have not an electric strainer, but a sauce master is what it's called. So you blanch the tomato, drop it in there, crank it through, and it separates the skin and the seeds from the pulp and the juice. And so what comes out is real nice consistency. But you're sitting there cranking, putting a tomato in, cranking, and putting another tomato and cranking, and then you end up with this huge pile of stuff that you're just throwing back into the compost. So what is the advantage of that over just blitzing it all in the Vitamixer until it's totally 100% pureed and then reducing it? I mean, some people will say that, well, the seeds and skins make it bitter. I've not found that to be true. I've found no difference in the taste, in the flavor of the two. So, what is I know that that's how they used to do it. But they also didn't have access to Vitamixers back in the day. They also didn't have access to all these modern electric things that we can just blitz it with. So, then I could understand, because the skins, yeah, I mean, if you just put the skins into your sauce, you're chewing on skins and seeds and stuff, and that's not nice. But if you totally liquefy it in the Vitamixer, it's just so easy and fast, and you're done. And you get all of the nutrients. You get all the flavors, all the nutrients, all surely the seeds and the skins have all kinds of nutrients that are advantageous to our health. Skinning them, throwing that out, throwing the seeds out. Why? Joe Slack, I want to know, with your Italian background. And many people is just like, well, that's just the way grandma did it. That's the way my great grandmother did it, and that's the way her great grandmother did it. Okay, I totally get that. But again, they didn't have access to the Vitamixer, did they? Itamar Toribio says, hey, Nate, what do you know about syntropic agriculture, and what is your opinion? I would have to refresh my memory on what syntropic agriculture is, which I can do really quickly and easily. But what is syntropic agriculture? Ooh. Is syntropic agriculture? My goodness, it doesn't even recognize that. Okay, never mind. What is SYN syntropic agriculture? Let us just see real quick, because I want to know as well. No. Syntropic. Okay, it's not really understanding that. Syntropic. It's not recognizing that. ChatGPT is not recognizing that. Anyways, we won't spend too much time on that. Pepper Gardner says, I need to find a better paste variety. I had a Rogue Roma come up 2 years ago in the compost and save seeds. Grew them out last year and they were mediocre. Need to find a good source. I can tell you a great source, Baker Creek, guys, Baker Creek. Also, a more local one in central Indiana is ufseeds.com, Urban Farmer Seeds. Not the Urban Farmer podcast, but Urban Farmer Seeds. I got to try it again. Syntropic agriculture. What is it? I need to... Okay, syntropic agriculture is a regenerative farming method that mimics natural ecosystems to improve soil health, increase biodiversity, and produce high yields without relying on synthetic fertilizers or chemicals. Developed by Swiss farmer Ernst Gosch, this system focuses on working with natural processes to create self-sustaining and resilient agricultural systems. Let's see, syntropy versus entropy. Okay, well, I will research more into that. But, there's so many systems and stuff that are just a real, because they've got a name and they can make a system about it. Oh, syntropic agriculture. We're pretty much doing all of those things. The things that I see here, and we will definitely, that's just naturally how we will arrange things. Diverse plant layers, succession planting, pruning as mulch, no chemical inputs, water efficiency. Of course, key practices in syntropic agriculture. High density planting, yes. Dynamic accumulators, definitely. Minimal soil disturbances, yes. All that checks out. So I don't know about that. I'll research more. I don't know exactly about that as a system, but I can tell you that a lot of those practices we already do, and they're wonderful, of course. So, once we get the land, we'll make a Viking system so that you can say, well, what do you think about the Viking system? Huh? But it will incorporate all those things anyways. Okay, Look to Nature says, ducks will devastate young growth. but my ducks kept everything pruned on the bottom branches. I used 2-foot fencing to keep them away from certain areas. Okay, so it is true. What I intuitively anticipated, the ducks will destroy your stuff. Andre Puskas, is Cherokee purple tomato worth growing? Guys, let us know. Is the Cherokee purple tomato worth growing? Yeah, Mom Computer says, Andre, you're funny. It's Nate's favorite. Yeah. You must be joking. Andre's got jokes. Let's see here. Yes, Andre says, I forgot. Sorry, somehow. Somehow I forgot. Thank you for answer. Yes. I like the Cherokee purple because it is the flavor of it. It's so sweet, and there's an earthy, almost smokiness to the Cherokee purple flavor. When they are ripe, I mean, when the Cherokee purple is in August, when it ripens in August, um, there's no other experience like it. Slicing it when it's hot out and stuff, you bring it inside and it gets a little bit cool. You slice it, a little bit of salt, maybe some pepper, maybe a basil leaf, or just plain. It doesn't matter. You eat that thing, and it is an experience unlike many other things. So it's but it's important that it is ripe. It's very important that it's ripe. Okay, because if it's not ripe, then it will just kind of taste like a normal tomato. But they come into a ripeness, into a certain 6-week, well, after about mid-August onwards, they're ripe. They come in ripe. The first handful of them are not like so ripe, and you'll be like, oh, what is this about? Just wait. Just wait. Yeah. Meyer Lemon says, Nate, I'm going to try Cherokee Purple next season. Someone told me they are temperamental, cat face, split, and disease prone. What's your experience? Oh, yeah, they are. They are temperamental. Definitely. Yeah. Disease prone, that's not been my experience. Cat facing from too much fertilizer, yes. We got some cat facing this year because we pushed the limit on the Viking fertilizer. But guys, we had 0 disease on the tomatoes this year. 0. All we used was the Viking granular and the aerated compost teas, and then a foliar of the guano bloom fertilizer. And that combination, even with 10-week drought, and I didn't water them, and they're just sitting there, they were dropping some of their old leaves that they didn't need because they were in survival mode, but they never caught disease. The whole year, all the way through, they never got even the blight, nothing. And they kept producing up until like frost, big time frost. So they are temperamental, but by this point, you should be able to grow them. I mean, when they say stuff's temperamental, most of you guys of the inner circle that are here right now, you should have no problem growing any of this stuff. Yeah. So guys, you got to give me just like 2 minutes, talk amongst yourself, because there's something I have to take care of. Hold on. Okay, my friends, here we are. We are back. So, Teats Treat says, the Viking tomato sauce was a life-changing event for me. Nice. And I know what you mean. If you're accustomed to having to blanch them and core them and take out the seeds and wring them out and all this huge process and have your different bowls of all the hot water and the ice water and all that, that's fine if you love that. You know, many people love the ritual of that, and that's perfectly fine. But if you just want the sauce, then and you've got like 1,000 other things to do, then just blitz them in the Vitamixer and reduce it by half, and you're done. That's it. Lisa T says, seeds and skins have never made our sauce bitter. Go Vitamix. Yes. B. Hendricks says, it's not a blender, it's a Vitamix. That's right. Yes. Yes. Megan McGuire says, my friend who loves to garden wants to stop gardening because they have a rat problem. Because they have a rat problem. I told her about your cat and how she decimated the rat population. I hope she continues to garden. Yes. Several things that she can do. She needs to trap them, but not everybody is into trapping them. You need to do a live trap, though, because you don't want to be, executing the neighbor's cats and stuff. So it has to be a live trap so that you see what you caught. Now, there's several ways to deal with it after that. But just remember, nobody likes a rat. So don't go and make a rat somebody else's problem. You have to take care of it. But the best way is a cat. Get you a couple, if you want to be serious about it, get you a Maine Coon. Look up Maine Coon cat. And get you 1 or 2 of those. And make sure that you train them well and you only feed them raw, what they're meant to eat, of course. Never feed your cat or dog cat food or dog food. It's like us eating McDonald's for every meal. So you can feed them naturally what they're supposed to eat. You can go to Costco and get things there, raw meats, for very cheap. It's not expensive. It's cheaper than buying cat food to feed your cat raw. Very easy, and the cat thrives. And it gets them accustomed to the taste of raw meat, the taste of blood from the liver and for stuff like that. So then it pretty much just makes them lunatics, as far as they will hunt anything. And there was just, it did away with them right away. So, and the smell is what keeps them away. The smell of a cat, even though Shiva is like kind of a dwarf cat. Definitely like a little dwarf, it doesn't matter. The smell of her, she'll get things, but she would not in an enclosed space, toe to toe with a full grown rat. Forget about it. Maybe, I don't know if her life depended on it, but rats are pretty gnarly. So you want to get you a big cat, a couple of big cats, but size is not everything. Okay. Size is not everything. If it was, the elephant would be the king of the jungle, right? But it's not. So size is not everything. It's gameness that is important. Gameness. So it's willingness to fight. It's willingness to hunt. It's willingness to participate. Gameness. And you can't train gameness. So it's either in the animal or it's not. And so you want to find you a couple of game Maine Coons. And I pity the rat population. So Danielle Patron says, I heard the skins. Thank you for putting I heard. I heard the skins aren't good because it increases botulism risk. In all the years I've been doing tomatoes, canning them, I've never once had a spoiled batch. Not even one spoiled can. And either water bathing them or pressure canning them. Now I just pressure can everything because I've got the All-American pressure canner. So why not? It's so easy and it's for sure. But I've never had a spoiled batch. And I've actually never added lemon juice to the, I've never added citric acid or anything. Just tomatoes and salt. That's it. And I've never had one issue. So Maurice says, if you got slugs, use beer traps. They go in and die. Yes. Watch my video I made earlier this year. We got so many of them. It was insane. It was insane how many, just a huge, disgusting gelatinous mess in every one of the beer traps. Became just this disgusting mess. And So, oops. So that's what we do if we have a problem with them. But I'm gonna come up with a way because obviously, I don't want to be buying beer. I mean, there's no need for it. I don't even like the smell anymore. But I will come up with a yeast method. So many people have told me about the way of using yeast and stuff like that. So we will. Teeth says the ultimate slug solution did better than beer traps for me. Oh yeah, the slug solution instantly melts whatever slugs it touches, especially the small gray ones. The leopard slugs, not so much because they're so big, and you'll spray them and they just like leave a huge layer of slime. The little gray ones though, they're done. They're totally done. Zebra PT says tomato skins are high in lectins, which are like barbs in your gut. Yeah, I've heard about lectins and stuff, but I don't necessarily buy it. I mean, I don't. I mean, maybe there's what's the guy Gundry? What's his? Tomatoes are poisoning you, and what's the other guy? Dr. Anthony Chafee. Tomato or vegetables are trying to kill you because they've got plant defense compounds, they've got anti-nutrients and oxalates, and all kinds of this just total nonsense, guys. Total people just focusing, people having to make a name for themselves. Gundry, his whole thing. He's just got to make a name for himself by making a huge fuss about stuff. Shocking thing. Tomatoes are trying to kill you. What? Okay, but I just don't think that that's the case. How many generations have people been eating tomatoes with the skin or without the skin, whatever it is? And so I just feel like well, I could go deep into that, because it's come close to me this past couple of years. The whole oxalate thing. You guys have been asking me more about that, and then I've more about that with a friend of mine. And so, I did a fair amount of research into the oxalate thing and to why it seems to all of a sudden be, well, collard greens are high in oxalates, so you can't be eating those because they cause kidney stones. Well, okay, but what does that really mean? And how, by what mechanism is that? How do they know that? And so you do more research and you find out that, okay, so here's how they know that really is that they will take the kidney stones out of the people, that they will take them and they will analyze them and they will see that it's calcium oxalate. That's what it's composed of, calcium oxalate. And so they say, well, it's from oxalates in your diet, of course. So don't eat oxalates and then you won't have the calcium oxalate to form the kidney stones, right? So now they push that, well, you got to stay away from leafy greens, which is the most insane thing I've ever heard. You got to stay away from leafy greens. So, because they're oxalates, because oxalate acid. Okay, well, by what mechanism does that work? Now, when you do more research into it, you find that it's like the cholesterol thing. Okay, do you remember? For a long time, they pushed low cholesterol. They pushed, well, so they'll do testing and they'll say, well, you've got high cholesterol. So obviously stop eating cholesterol. And there you go, problem solved. You need to be on a low cholesterol diet. But then we come to find it doesn't work that way. We actually come to find that dietary cholesterol has no impact on your blood cholesterol. Yeah, that is totally regulated by hormones that have been produced in certain organs, the liver and kidneys in particular. And so things like that come from a dysbiosis, the same place that your inability to absorb oxalates would come from. So I forget the exact name of the microorganisms that are in the gut, but they have oxalate in the name. Something's oxalate, blah, blah, blah. They're microorganisms that consume and help you assimilate these oxalates. And because in a healthy gut microbiome, we should have plenty of these and we should be able to eat them and they assimilate and we can absorb the nutrients from it. Only if you have a dysbiotic microbiome, dysbiosis, out of balance, gut microbiome, you're not able to assimilate these oxalates. And so through calcium, combinations with calcium, it gets kind of complex. Then you're unable to absorb them, and so you can form calcium oxalate deposits. There's just so much to it that it's insane to think that we can think, well, you got to cut out leafy greens. That's the ticket. No, it's not that simple. There's so much more to it. Like the cholesterol thing, so for years they were like, well, you got to cut out all the cholesterol. But actually, cholesterol is super crucial, very important. It's a precursor to many hormones in the body. And without proper cholesterol, you're at a hugely increased risk for Alzheimer's and low testosterone and all kinds of other issues. So, as with so many things, it's not about cutting out a certain thing. It's about the body uh, able to regulate itself. So you have to detoxify from many things. Okay, so we go into a lot more of that stuff on the Thrive channel. We talk a lot more like that, but this is because I hear that all the time, guys, about oxalates and then the lectins and stuff like that. But I'm just not concerned about that, and that's why. Because the more that you investigate that kind of stuff, it kind of falls apart. You're like, well, okay, but and you see that it all stems from your gut microbiome or your organs being out of alignment. So there's my rant on that. Leland, yes, you can still plant garlic. Yes, you can. It won't do as well, but if your ground is workable, you can still plant garlic. So, yes, Pepper Gardener says, in peak tomato harvest, I blitzed tomatoes and froze them. Now I'm pulling them out of the freezer for soups and sauces. Ooh, yeah. Aaron Johnson says, mine did cat face. Yeah, they can cat face. Sign of too much, a little bit too much rich. Yeah. So let us see here. Maurice says, I don't know where you're from, if it's legal by you, but maybe some videos on cannabis in the future. Yeah, even though I could do a whole channel just on that easily, and it would be a huge success. Uh, it's not federally recognized as being legal, so that's not something we'll be doing. And that whole plant is just out of my life, really. So I don't need that. So let's see. Ooh, Linda Rogers says, finally caught you on the live. My car broke down, stranded at home, but you are the highlight. Ooh, thank you. But well, it's better than being stranded not at home, isn't it? Yeah, P. Morton says, I had some volunteer purple tomatoes last year. Got a month of yield before the heat went crazy and killed them off. Ooh, killed them off. As long as the root zone is cool, they should be perfectly, able to survive. Now, that's the problem with volunteer tomatoes, though, is that they take so long to start producing. That's one reason that we will start them early, is because it will allow them to produce like 6 weeks or 8 weeks sooner than the volunteer ones. Yeah. Wayne Caroli says, I like that and so right. Don't make it someone else's problem. I know you're talking about the rats. Yeah. So many people, they'll trap rats or raccoons and well, I take it over to this little patch of woods over here and let it go because I'm being, kind. And so, well, okay, but you're making it someone else's problem. If it's anywhere even remotely around humans or settlements of any kind, you're making it someone else's problem. You just are. And so if you're fine with that being a burden to somebody else's life, then okay, do that. If it makes you feel better because you didn't have to terminate this creature. But guys, if it gets to the point where it's either you get no harvest or you have to terminate this creature, the choice is obvious. Can't see the forest. I use a champion juicer to remove seeds and skins to avoid the concentration of lectins. Okay. But what do you think about that champion? Is it easy to clean? Yeah. Oh, Teets, that's totally, it says, don't feed the cat for a week. Rats will magically disappear. Man, I've been to so many places that have cats, but infestation of mice. I'm like, how do you have mice? When you got cats, well, I got to feed them 3 times a day this cat food, which cat food, guys, if you think that human food is unregulated, watch a couple documentaries on cat food or pet food. Just wide open, make it as put on these addicting chemicals that make the cat literally addicted to the food, constantly hungry, constantly whining for food because it's addicted. It needs its stuff, you know? When you switch to 100% raw diet, your animal will never do that because the food is so nutrient dense. They'll never do that. They're not chemically withdrawing from their substance like they do when you feed them kibbles and stuff. Meyer Lemon says Maine Coons are amazing. They are dog-like cats and so sweet, very smart, and super good for keeping critters down for sure. Yeah. When we get the land, I'm going to get a couple Maine Coons unfixed, let them have a litter or two. So we got about 10 Maine Coons running around the place. What do you think? Fire Lemon says, "Oh, Nate, your beer trap results were not for the faint of heart." It's disgusting, isn't it? I mean, it was unbelievable. Like 30 of them in this gelatinous sludge. It's just, Wayne Carulli says, "The reason is because the skins carried all the pests and biologicals on them. And you all are thinking of perfect tomatoes. 100 years ago, tomatoes were ugly." That could be the case. I mean, if there's cat facing and stuff like that, the type of tomato that, I mean, I don't know what would be a whole lot different from tomatoes I'm growing as opposed to what tomatoes 100 years ago they would be growing. Maybe varieties have refined a little bit, yes, but they probably had pretty good tomatoes. I'm sure they had pretty good tomatoes back then. They had their ways. Linda Rogers says, "All summer and fall, I could not get anywhere with my collard greens for the white butterflies. Here it is December 28th and found one I did not pull up. Still green. Going to plant late this coming year." The cabbage butterfly, the cabbage moth, the little white moth, is the adult stage of the cabbage worm, the little green caterpillar. And you can easily solve the entire problem by getting some BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, and spray it on there. As soon as you start seeing damage from the caterpillars or from the cabbage worms, or as soon as you start seeing those white moths, that means that a batch has hatched and they're flying around looking for a brassica, and they will lay their eggs on there. They'll fly around, lay more eggs. And so about a week to 10 days after you see those butterflies start appearing, so let's say 10 days, maybe even 2 weeks after you see those butterflies begin to appear, those white moths, spray your brassica plants with the Bacillus thuringiensis, which is just a natural microorganism, okay? And it's incredible. It will infect the digestive process of the caterpillar, and it will not be able to digest food. Yeah, sort of like Ozempic for the cabbage moth. And it will starve to death. I know it sounds brutal, but it will just die. It will just wither away to nothing because it can't eat and because it can't digest anything. So you will notice, you spray that stuff, so spray it every night for like 3 nights in a row. That will wipe them out. You will have 0 damage. And if you see them hatch again, because they're somewhere about 2 months later, once you see the white butterflies again, 10 days after you start seeing them, spray your brassicas with 3 sprayings each night. Each night, spray it. And that will totally solve the problem. I couldn't believe it. For years, people watch the video I made this past year. For years, people were telling me about, oh, you just got to spray BT. And I was like, I don't know about this. I mean, what is this fungi? I mean, how do I know it's not going to kill a bunch of other stuff? And, I need to learn more about it. But now that I did, and I've used it, I will never, it's like total freedom. You can go back to growing any brassica, and it doesn't matter. It will not get wiped out by the cabbage moth if you use BT. So let's see. Wayne Carrilli says, I guess the Amish don't know what they are doing, right? Because they remove the skins. Well, nobody says that if you remove the skins, you don't know what you're doing. Nobody is saying that. But we are saying that why? So explain to me why. If I could talk to the Amish and they say, well, because if you leave the skins on, then it does this, or it does this, or I mean, why? We don't just say, well, they're doing it, so that has to be the only way that it's done. So yeah, it says it has to do with the process. They don't have vitamin. Well, that's true. The Amish don't have Vitamix blenders as well. But you know, as the saying goes, there's many ways to skin a cat, right? Which is a very bizarre saying, but I guess it applies here. There are many ways to skin a cat, meaning that you can do the same thing multiple different ways. But I like this one because if I'm gonna have to harvest the tomatoes, oh my god, and then spend spend the time to blanch them and squeeze them and de-seed them and all that, I'm just not going to get around to it. I'm just not going to have that time to be able to dedicate peak season when everything else is coming in and you got to get things ready for winter and you got so much other stuff you got to do, replanting, making content and all that. I'm just not going to do it. You know, I just won't have tomato sauce. But if I can just put it into the blender and reduce it, I'll have boatloads of tomato sauce. So that's what it boils down to for me. And I don't feel like I'm drinking barbed wire, you know, when I'm doing any of that. Yeah. Aaron Johnson says, my doc did that to me, put me on flippin' statin, made me so sick. I stopped them, did my own research, and changed my diet to healthy fats instead of seed oils, fermented foods, and such. Yes, definitely. Teats Treats, remember when egg yolks were bad? An egg is the perfect protein. It is. And the egg yolk is the best part. You remember that big push? Well, you want an egg whites, make an egg white omelet. The yolk is literally nature's multivitamin. Everything necessary for the production of animal life is in the egg. And, well, it's just amazing. So, yes. Linda Rogers says, it's all about balance, and other plants work to counter the oxalates. Definitely. And the way that you prepare it. And it's all about the gut microbiome. If you've got a thriving gut microbiome, you can easily assimilate the oxalates. You'll have no problem whatsoever. Now, that's not medical advice. So, let's see here. Now, Zebra PT says, I've firsthand seen food changes uncripple a client. Go ahead and scoff. Some guts can't handle it. Now, of course, I'm not saying that there aren't exceptions to that. Of course, you know, but a lot of times, though, you will see, okay, so they'll go on a certain particular type of diet, but what they're actually doing is eliminating processed stuff from their diet. And so it's really the elimination of the processed things or the dead things from their diet, you know, that is actually really doing a lot of it, or the introduction of probiotics and so many other things. So let's see. Yes, Queen RB, eat to feed the gut microbiome just like you feed the soil. Yes, feed the community of microorganisms that exist in the soil, and the plant will take care of itself, the health of the plant. Feed the community of microorganisms that exist in your gut, and your health will abound. Thank you, Weebler says the new mic setup sounds very good. All of your lives with it have zero clicking. Sounds and looks great, not having a big mic in frame. Yes, thank you for that comment as well. What do you think about that? Not having the big mic that I gotta have in the frame. I mean, this will be fine with me, you know. This will be fine with me. So hello, Pam. Good to see you here. I know. Mom Computer says, Nate, I thought you dropped the idea of having 20 Maine Coons after your Shiva the Destroyer tore up your plants. Well, I think that there's ways that I can do it. There's ways that it can be done. I think that because living in the ranch in Northern California, mice and rats will decimate your stuff. I mean, horribly. Their droppings are everywhere, and they will eat the food stores for the winter, and that is not acceptable. So there's traps and deterrents and stuff, but nothing works like a cat. A cat is the ultimate, so long as the cat is game and hungry enough and not addicted to cat food. And it's, basically it needs its heroin stuff. So, thank you, Jeremy Ransom. Yes, it is long over, but the stories live on. Wayne says, when you get to this, I don't disagree with anything you say about tomatoes. Just explain why they did it. I get it, totally. We're just having a discussion, how they call like a debate, but we're not really debating, we're just discussing. Whoa, Lisa T says, living in the city and neighbor's teen rooster is getting louder by the day. Love them having a flock, less love for lost sleep. Hope we find a solution. Roosters are the reason that chickens are outlawed in the city. If we could have chickens here, well, I actually probably wouldn't have that, actually, because it's too small here. But I know this person over here has got chickens. I hear them just squawking, but it's just a little hen house. They probably just got like 3 or 4 little hens. There's no rooster, that's for sure. Yeah, when those roosters start crowing in the middle of the night, it's time for them to go. Yeah. P. Morton says, that BT is the truth. Little goes a long way. It absolutely is. What? Lisa T says, any ideas? She has tried a crowing collar and putting him in the garage at night. A crowing collar? This is the first time I've ever heard of that, but it makes perfect sense. A crowing collar. That seems hard. I don't know how. I mean, a dog with a bark collar can understand. I don't know if a rooster will ever get. He's like, well, what do you mean? I'm a rooster. What do you want me to do? That's what I'm supposed to do. So we'll see. Okay, Masterus66 says, I put BT in my compost teas. Now, that's one way to do it, but the BT will kill any caterpillar, okay? So this is why I only spray it on the brassica plants. You don't want to kill the swallowtail butterfly caterpillars or the monarch caterpillars. You don't want to, any of the other. The only thing we're interested in is protecting the brassica plants from the cabbage moth, and that is the cabbage worm. So we just spray the brassica plants only. That's what I do. You put it in your compost tea and you put it all over your garden, you will have no butterflies, period. But I have tons of butterflies, not them white ones though. And so, because I selectively spray it. So even the BT, I don't just spray all over everything, unless I'm only growing brassicas, then I would, but no. B. Hendricks says, so I heard spray your brassicas with Ozempic. Yes. Basically, yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of works by the same, well, I don't know this, but it works by the same mechanism, paralyzing the digestion of the organism. So, Taylor Reindl, $20. Thank you, my friend. Says, hey, Viking, did you till in peat to your beds? So when and you will see this in the upcoming videos this early spring, when we did this, okay, so I took, it needed this facelift because several years of chop and drop and all of this composting in place, it's great. It made amazing soil, but there was like pockets of wood chips, still just undecomposed, pockets of this, pockets of that, very, very uneven. And like layers of things, which is great, but this really did a number. So I took up all those old logs and stuff like that that I used to introduce the microorganisms. When I first started this garden, it was just grass, on top of Indiana clay. And so I wiped out the grass, and then I went into the forest behind, I went into an old forest. And there's tons of logs there, tons of like logs that were cut up by the power line companies and left to lay there. So, and they started to decompose. So I took those logs, put them on my trailer. It's a labor of love, but it worked really well. Put them on my trailer and then used those in the garden, brought them here and put them around the perimeter. So those indigenous microorganisms were infiltrating the soil and it was helping to inoculate everything. It worked really well. And but those were mostly decomposed by now. And so I removed what was left. And then I took all the pots, all the 30-gallon grow bags, the 150-gallon grow bags, I took all the grow bags that I had, all the different pots I had all over the place, and just emptied them into the two sides. I kept the path down the middle and just emptied them, piled them into the two sides. So those grow bags did have peat moss and perlite mixture in there. Just bushels of peat moss and perlite is what I use in the bags. Soilless growing medium. And so I emptied all of that into the ground there and then tilled it all in many, many times, tilled it all in, incorporated it all. So it is like an amazing, fluffy, beautiful thing because we tilled it all in and then made the beds and then placed the beds and then shoveled from the aisleways into the beds so that the aisleways are actually recessed below grade a little bit and the beds are nice and full of this fluffy mixture. That's going to allow for amazing drainage and the roots are going to be nice and contained. They're going to be right where we need them. So, which is right where the water is going to be. So I didn't in particular put peat in there, but if I didn't have those bags that I was going to incorporate in there, then I would have gotten a few bushels of peat, yes, because it takes forever to break down and it holds on to moisture but allows good airflow. So yes, I would have, but I had so many, I probably had 1,000 gallons of pots. Yeah. I know. I agree. Look to nature. I think there are more ways to prep an onion. Why the cat? I know, but that is a saying, right? I mean, you've all heard that. Yeah. Um, yeah. Wide Family Farm says this last summer with feeding the microbes and biochar, I hardly had any bug pressure. It was amazing. I totally agree. I mean, I hardly had any bug pressure at all. Just using the aerated compost teas and the guano fertilizers, and the base fertilizer, of course. Yeah. uh, the base fertilizer. All right. Now that's super important. Base fertilizer is everything. Remember that. If you do the base fertilizer right, which it means what you put into the soil, the actual organic matter, you don't have to add anything but water. Now you can enhance the effects of everything with microbial brews, all that kind of stuff, definitely. But like I've said before, too many people want to focus on liquid fertilizers instead of base fertilizer. Base is everything. What you actually put in the soil is most important. Um, Look to Nature says, Nate, which is your preferred oil for your wok? Lard or tallow. And then to a lesser degree, and for certain dishes, sesame, cold pressed sesame oil. Yeah. Which is technically a seed oil, I know, but I haven't gotten to the bottom of it. It's an old method sesame oil's been around for thousands of years, a long time. So it's not like the other GMO seed oils. So I'm not sure. I mean, I get a particular type, a Japanese sesame oil. So I don't know if it's, when you read and learn about seed oils, which all of you should, of course, I'm not sure where sesame, organic cold pressed sesame, comes into that. I'm not sure yet, but I will be in the future. Whoa, Serene Winged Horse says, I have to say the Black Chris tomato is the best I ever had. Wow, okay. Yeah, the and the wok, I do the lard and the tallow because they're so high heat. If you're using any other things except maybe ghee, it will burn because we're cranking that heat high. So you want to use the real high heat stuff. Yeah. Look, guys, just started some alfalfa sprouts. They're my favorite of the sprouts. That's pretty much all I sprout anymore is alfalfa. Here's wheatgrass, which we juice wheatgrass. We're just about to sprinkle this out onto the trays so we can have our trays of wheatgrass. We're also going to sprinkle out the peas so that we can have our pea shoot microgreens. We're also going to sprinkle out the sunflowers so we can have the black oil sunflowers. Delicious. Yeah. Wide Family says roosters are going to crow. That's what they do. Yeah, exactly. It's true. Oh yeah. AK Froggy says one of the neighbors a quarter mile away that has a dog that won't stop barking. I'd rather have the roosters. I know. They say, well, the roosters are so or the chickens are so noisy. Dogs all over the place, constantly barking. Constantly. So let us see here. Ryan Kelly says, hey, Nate, in your fertilizing schedule, can you add all fertilizers, for example, JLF, fish fertilizer, JMS, into one water can with the same ratio? So, you know, it's like it's not like chemical fertilizers where the slightest little overdose is going to kill all your stuff, you know. So it's not like that. So you will what you want to do though is you want to separate. So you want to understand that the JMS is a microbial inoculant and it's not actually a fertilizer. It is in the sense that it does add fertility to the land. So it is a fertilizer in that sense. But by some definitions, a fertilizer has to contain nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, sulfur. So, but it's best to rotate. You don't need everything every time. So it's best to have a wide diversity. So the fish fertilizer is going to be the best of all of them. So add the fish fertilizer with some JMS one time, if you want, or add the JMS by itself. Now you can add all of those things in the same application. You can just reduce them all by about half because you don't want the total ratio shouldn't be much above what you know 1 to 30, 1 to 50. There's a lot of leeway. I mean, in proper KNF, Korean natural farming, the FAA, the fish amino acids, is diluted at 1 to 1,000. That's 1 teaspoon per gallon, less than. Okay, there's like 800 teaspoons a gallon, something like that. It's the insane imperial system, which makes no sense at all. But it's just random. They threw darts at a board. Said, "Hey, how many teaspoons should make a gallon? I don't know, 758. Okay, that's how much it is. How many feet are in a mile? I don't know. Let's 5,280. Okay, it doesn't make any sense. It's not based on anything. I still don't get it. After traveling the world and seeing the metric system, how can there be anything other? It just doesn't make sense, but whatever. So, it'd be easy to do the metric system 1 to 1,000, 1 milliliter per liter, right? Basically. I mean, so that would be approximately 4 milliliters per gallon, give or take. So approximately a teaspoon per gallon, a teaspoon is 5 mils, give or take, so it's, now the labs and stuff like that, it's all 1 to 1,000. The FPJ and stuff like that is all 1 to 1,000, which is almost homeopathic, almost non-existent. But you're using it every watering. You're using it all the time. So you can, but I would have to know the reason for that. Yeah. Silver Sage, yes, I do have a video on sprouting. I made it maybe 2 years ago. Check it out. Yes, show you exactly how to sprout. And see, there's a little bit too much water in this one. I need to tip it upside down. I just drained it out. So I need to tip it upside down. But sprouts are amazing. Sprouts are amazing. But guys, check this out, okay? Do you remember last year or last episode, I told my uncle, I said, hey, I need a cutting board. And he was like, sure, I got you. Let me make you one by hand. So he made this one for me. Look at that, okay? It's amazing. Now, this one already had the hemp oil put onto it, all right? But guess what? Come Christmas time, Viking girlfriend got a surprise. And it was a surprise to me, too. But we found, but Viking uncle gave her one as well that he made by hand. Now, look at this one. This one, look at that, guys. Amazing. Now, look at the difference, okay? Well, one, this one's not been rubbed with oil yet, but look at the, see? I like that line. Which one do you like more? I mean, I'm into these things. So which one do you think is a better? I like the one with the line on it. I think that looks real good. You see? It's some kind of maple or something. I forget exactly which woods these are part of. But this is the one with the oil. See? It's got slightly bigger cubes or something. It's just insane how these things look. So we're going to put the oil on this one. This one feels a little bit thicker, although I guess maybe it's not, but it's a little bit heavier somehow. So awesome, isn't it? Now, I like having the border on the top and the bottom. So once we put that oil on there, though, that's really going to change things. Or, I mean, it's going to darken it up and it's going to seal it up. Then we're going to put that beeswax with the propolis on the top. Yeah. So check it out, guys. Let's do it right now. Ready? I'll show you. So here we are. Here's the cutting board. Okay, ready? Watch how much it's going to change things when we, let's see here. We're going to drip some oil onto the cutting board. Now, we only use organic hemp oil, of course. Okay, so let's do it right down the center. Okay, and because this wood is going to soak up tons of this oil, it's going to soak up lots of this oil. Okay, ready? So, oh yeah, look at that. Look at that, how it brings it out. And we're gonna have to do it, whoops, see? We're gonna have to do that like several times. We're gonna have to do that like 10 times basically, because it's gonna soak up so much of this oil and that's gonna protect it. Do you see how oh man. Look at the difference between the oiled section and the non-oiled. So the oiled, once we do that like 10 times, because it's end grain, so it's gonna keep soaking up so much of the nutrients, so much of the oil. And then we're going to put that beeswax on it, yeah? I'm just loving it. So it's like a work of art. So let me know what you guys think. Once we're done here, I'm going to soak this thing in a bunch of oil. So, let's see. Yes, Lisa T says, gorgeous. Oiling the wood is satisfying. It is very satisfying. And it just soaks that stuff in there. Oh, good. Meyer Lemons, yeah. I think my greatest gardening challenge is going to be successfully growing my wasabi arugula without it bolting. Any ideas? You have to keep it cool. You have to keep it cool and well watered and picked. So shade cloth. Arugula does not need a lot of sun. So it can have some shade cloth. It can be in a shady environment, but you want to keep it picked no matter what. You want to, even if you're not going to eat it all, occasionally you want to go through, even with some hedge trimmers, cut that whole thing low so that it can regrow. But there comes a point when it's just going to bolt no matter what. Arugula just bolts easy. So that's just what that is. Andre says, so amazing, 3D cubes on the boards. Your uncle is so talented. Yes, it is definitely a talent. B. Hendricks, this live oil job is only missing a little up close ASMR. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so we're going to take the oil and we're just going to put a little dab right here. And we're going to notice how it soaks up all the goodness. Little Bob Ross experience, huh? So, yeah, Bob Ross was from Indiana. You know that? Or at least the Bob Ross experience is. Okay, guys. Lucia Bora says, great work of art. Big compliments to Viking Uncle. Yes. Yes. Big compliments. So, okay, guys. Well, it's been a good one. I appreciate everybody's contributions, their input, and everything. So, thank you, guys. Wait, there was a yes, Matthew Olson, $10 via Venmo. Thank you, my friend. Says thanks for all your garden knowledge. Love the live streams. Happy New Year. Oh, Pepper Gardener, of course. Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate that. Thank you to everyone who contributes and. Both in the donations, but also energetically, also your knowledge and stuff like that. So we appreciate that. If you guys want to check out the interview we did last week with Viking Girlfriend, you can go to the Thrive channel, which is just my name, Nate Muri, and you can check that out. There's a link in the description all the way at the bottom for that channel. We used to call it Thrive Like a Viking, but now it's just my name. And we did an interview where Viking Girlfriend, also known as Camille, she explains the experience of having a gardening lifestyle introduced to her life. So she used to love, or what she loves veg. She loves vegetables, fresh eating, making smoothies, all that kind of stuff. But she always went to the store, of course, for that. But now, this past summer, she explains in the interview the experience of having a huge garden outside where every meal is just focused around, okay, what's ready in the garden? What's the base going to be? Well, of course, meat, but what's the base going to be as far as veg goes and stuff? And just that whole gardening lifestyle. She also explains her experience with kettlebell training, with ice bathing, sauna therapy, all the practices that we do. So yeah, and this upcoming year we are going to have several people lined up for live streams, joint live streams. So already Sean from Edible Acres, already Gardener Scott, already I'm sure again we'll have on Tony from Simplified Gardening. I lined up Nick, the worm farming expert. He is willing to be on the show. And I'm sure David the Good, I haven't directly talked with him yet, but I'm sure he will be down for that. And if there's other ones, let us know. Let's make it happen. Definitely. Okay. So the Hydro says, what happened to the electric bike? Is it still working? I mean, good quality. It's great quality. I mean, that little thing is portable and solid, and I'm very happy. I can't wait till the spring comes and we can ride it all over the place. We're going to take it on the trails and stuff. They'll have their normal bikes, but I'll have my electric bike. So I'll probably have a rope so that they could maybe hold on to if they need to. Yeah. So we'll see. Yeah. But all right, guys. Well, everyone have a happy new year. And here is to a wonderful 2024 that we already had. And here is to an amazing 2025 that is yet to come. The best year yet. Yes.